I'm one of the few black people I know that can say I come from a long line of married folk. Um, and when I say married, I mean like for real married. I mean like both parents, grandparents, great grandparents, so on and so forth. They weren't like, they lived in the house, they dealt with each other to death, did them part, whatever. And throughout my generations, I got to learn about all the different things that my foreparents went through in marriage, right? And I'm gonna admit, I'm a little behind on this whole, marriage is slavery for women, that type of deal. Huh. The way that I was taught about marriage is it's really a gruesome perspective. But it's like when you start getting interest calling yourself having a girlfriend or a boyfriend, eventually the whole birds and the bees conversation comes up. And everybody gets where they had that itch that they want to have scratched. And that's when a conversation of life starts happening. People stop talking to you about how you feel and what you think, and they start talking to you about your actions and consequences. Because once you get to that age where you think you're in love or you think you're in a relationship, and I'm talking like adolescents or whatever. Some of these kids, they're dating and they haven't even hit puberty, not even close. But anyway, once you think you have an emotion for somebody, then the conversation starts coming up about life decisions. Um, and I'm going to try to condense this, but when it's one thing if you're by yourself and you want to do things, but it's a whole other ball game when you merge yourself into somebody else's life. They have their own thoughts, you have yours, right? Now, eventually the conversation, about, slap and tickle coming in, and that is strictly baby making talk, right? Now, maybe because my parents and stuff were older, this is why I think a little slower about things. Or I think it's just my temperament. I like to take my time with stuff. And so the way that I saw getting into relationships, having sex, I guess, I saw that as every part of that was like commitment. And when you're dealing with somebody else, you have to be mindful of the other person. Now, what I am learning is that relationships are generally not spoken of in the perspective of the other person. So these days when I hear about relationships, it's all about what the individual is looking for. Like if I'm looking for somebody, it's like, I want a man that has this, or I want a man who has that, or whatever. He needs to already have this. My type of dream guy is this and that. And that is so far removed from reality to me, because if we're all honest with ourselves, we're all a work in progress, right? We all have a lot of issues. Which brings me to a next thought. Like, we live in a day and age where you have people who are like in their 30s, 40s, 50s, and beyond, still talking about what their parents did, which that's a whole nother conversation, right? But we have so many loose ends. And to say, I require this of this person before they even come into my life, I've always thought that was bizarre. Mainly because when I was dating, I was always thinking about, and maybe this is from a woman's perspective, but what am I doing to advance the person that I'm with? And talking specifically about men, right? When a guy got an interest in me, it was like, okay, where do I fit in all this? I was what one of my exes would call a serial monogamist, where I didn't want to, I didn't date around going 4 or 5 dates. Every time I was with somebody, I was with one person, right? And it was like every time I was dating this one person, it was like, where do I fit in all of this? Now, from a man's perspective, the way that I've seen it was like, I'm kind of a Bible thumper, so I believe a man who finds a wife finds a good thing, right? So every time a guy found me, most times I'd be like, wrong number, because it would be guys being like, oh yeah, you got a man. I'm like, no, I don't. I'm good. Some guys, they can't even take the hint of I'm good, and I just be like, okay, I'm gay. I'll just say I'm gay. Just get them off my tail. But there'll be times when I really thought I hit it off with a guy, and he really hit it off with me, and then when we would start being in a relationship, I would start losing interest, and it's not for the superficial stuff that they talk about on the internet. It's more so of, maybe I met him somewhere and he was the coolest dude in the room, and I couldn't believe that he was into me because I was just chilling, or maybe because, we were cool until we got around his family, and then things got a little weird, and then I started trying to figure out, hey, do I really want to be a part of this whole shindig, right? But then I hit the jackpot with my husband, because it was like, it clicked, everything clicked, but at the same time, it was one of those energies where it disconnected and reconnected. There would be times when we seemed so far apart from each other in our understanding of each other, but then somehow we still always came back. Now, I guess what I'm getting at is, being in a marriage, there's a certain dynamic that I don't think anybody's thinking about, specifically as a wife. When I was young and my family used to talk to me about marriage, I used to always have this picture in my head that a wife is like, the wings of an angel, which that sounds kind of corny, but hear me out. It's like men work so hard, and, you got those guys that, whatever. I'm not talking about, the negative ones, but I'm saying in general, I think the problem with humanity these days, and even in Western culture, is that we don't humanize men, and we don't think about how they may feel. Like, there's automatically a pressure on men. They have to be a provider. They have to look a certain way. God forbid they're less than 6 feet tall, right? And it's like, when you have all that stress on you, unfortunately, men, and especially in Western culture, are trained to take on the added weight of an impossible woman. And a lot of times it's about keep her happy, make her happy, keep her happy, make her happy. And it's like, as long as you're fighting to keep her happy, that fight will never end. A person's happiness is their responsibility themselves. It's a part of your mental health. You make the decision on who you want to be and how you want to be. That's another conversation in and of itself. That's 2 videos right there. I need to probably write these down. But anyway, what I'm getting at is a lot of people are missing the fact that being a wife is a lot like an art form. It's like being in that supportive role, knowing that this man is being who he is and he found me. There is a work in that. Somewhere in the process of whatever he was building in life, he saw me and realized that there was a place for me to be in that work, right? And I guess these days, me being a educated person and whatnot, it's so easy to get invested in the system to where it's like, I've got this career and, I've got these bank accounts and I've got this property and and then now I have to somehow, especially if I'm coming with more than he is, I got to somehow mold him into this world that I've established. And to me, it just doesn't make sense. Like the way that everything is set up, right? Because if this man is building and he tapped me and okay, now I see what he's doing. I hear what the hangups are. Also, again, not trying to be a Bible thumper, but I believe that a wife is a helpmeet. So it's like I'm helping you meet your goals, but you got your goals, right? And he's making these decisions, crucial decisions. And as he makes these decisions, of course, being a wife, I'm affected, right? And then we have our children, and our children are affected. And, here's the thing that people don't talk about. When a woman is single and she has children, everybody looks at her like she's some kind of hero. In a lot of ways, she's either a hero or a villain. Either she's a hero because she's doing it all on her own, she's so strong. Or she's a villain because, she's a 304, she got clapped up and her baby daddy left. It's a lot about that. But when you're a wife, and I don't mean that married on paper, I don't mean, whatever. I mean like when you're actually doing the work, when you're actually dealing with your husband, and boy, sometimes it gets rough. When he's dealing with you, it gets rough sometimes, right? Nobody talks about the fact that when that man has his name on you, what he has to deal with. Like, as a wife, one thing that I've experienced overnight after being married, and then after we got our documents fixed, my name was changed. Instantly, when anything would happen, everybody would be, well, where your husband at? It came from, who your daddy is to where your husband at, right? Like, your daddy let you wear that outside, to, your husband let you wear that, But then it becomes more intense when you have children. Because now, every time something happens with the kids, or every time they're in public or something, if they misbehave, people see that I'm married, or people know that I'm married, they bring up my husband. They blame him. Number one, like one time my son, he was kind of growing out of a sweatshirt. And one of the ladies at the market who was used to seeing me was like, oh yeah, husband needs to buy a new sweatshirt. And it was just like, this man is out working 24/7. My son literally just had a growth spurt. It's not even like his clothes are too small. It was just, on my way out, it was wintertime, threw the sweatshirt on, boy had a growth spurt. Kids do this all the time. But immediately I knew there was some special identifier on me, because first of all, people felt the need to say something. They got a little too familiar with me. But then on top of that, I noticed that nobody talked about what I was doing out of place. Here's the real gag about my son's sweatshirt being too small. He did have sweatshirts that fit, but I'm the type of person, I wash the clothes before throwing them on me or the kids. I don't just pick from the store and throw the clothes on it. No. So it was like, laundry day was around the corner. I'm going to run to the store, take the kids, thinking nothing of it. And that's another thing with being a wife, too. It's like everybody looks at your husband, especially if your husband is husbanding, like if he's actually tending to the garden, another biblical reference. But if he's tending to you properly, it's like, man, this dude, he's got to answer for work. He's got to answer for the bills. He's got to answer for me. He's got to answer for the kids. And I used to think to myself, where's the slavery in that for me? You know what I mean? Like, because when everything's going great, oh man, your husband's doing such a great job. But if my son's sweatshirt is a little fitted, oh man, didn't your husband get him them clothes? When is he going? It's like always thumping, So there's a certain dynamic with being a wife. It's not even being a housewife. Like even today, like right now, I'm keeping the house at peace. I'm keeping the children in order. I'm reporting to him. He reports to me. My husband, I'm teaching them. I'm training them. I'm growing with them, right? It's not like this, I guess this idea that, a husband just, he's just going to get a wife and then he's just going to sit on her back. That is so bizarre. That's such a bizarre narrative to me. Her life ends. No, the work begins. Okay, here's the alternative. Be single, be horny, be lonely, and be corny. Not that I'm knocking anybody that's single right now that's trying to be with somebody. I'm just saying, what is the world saying? What I don't understand the math of it. It's like we're looking for something good, we get something good, and we find a reason to make it bad. But I don't know. Still trying to figure that out. I don't know. Maybe I may never figure it out. It's probably why it's making so much money.